Welcome to Going Deeper with David Steele, the show that dives into the heart of environmental solutions while literally floating on the source, the ocean. In just a few short minutes, we'll meet with the entrepreneurs and game changers that are making a difference in people's lives through the products and services they provide. Get ready to unplug from the matrix of mediocrity and plug into nature as we discuss the solutions to many of today's biggest challenges. It's time to go deeper. All right, super stoked today to be out here with my dear friend Michael Ravenwood, and this is going to be a different episode. We're talking about Skyfire Arts and his incredible project. When you hear of some of the things that this incredible human does, it's amazing. It's all about the environment and our personal responsibility about what we can do to be better humans on this planet and to bring awareness to energy. And if you haven't met Michael yet, you're going to love it. And I'm going to share some of his videos because I've met a ton of people in my life. This is the only person I've ever met who figured out how to harness lightning. Yes, figured out how to hold lightning and throw lightning. It's freaking unbelievable. And it's all about personal responsibility, the environment, making the world better. It's incredible. I am super stoked to introduce Michael. And can you tell me a little bit about Skyfire Arts? And we're definitely going to get into how you got into the crazy world of using a Tesla coil and harnessing lightning. But go ahead and just tell us a little bit about Skyfire Arts.
Sure. So it's a performing arts company in which sort of the signature act is we wear high voltage protective suits. We become electrified by giant devices known as Tesla coils, and we throw 10-foot bolts of lightning as part of our show. And the intention behind it is to use that as a beacon, as kind of a spectacular thing to draw people's attention to ecological awareness and renewable energy. The characters on stage that are wielding fire and lightning and light, they're representations. They're my artistic attempt to show what it would look like for us to live in harmony with nature and technology. Like, what do those people that live in that world think like? How do they feel and how do they move? And so that's kind of my artistic attempt, is to put something out there that really inspires people to think of being in harmony with nature and technology as heroic and to find their place in that.
That's incredible. And I'm going to want to have you speak on Skyfire Academy. But before we do that, it's not everybody that plays with the Tesla coil or even knows what a Tesla coil is or how it works. How did you get started doing that? And I haven't mentioned it yet, but Michael is also an incredible fire spinner and performer, and performs with his beautiful wife, and it's like one of the most amazing things you've ever seen. But how did this happen?
Yeah, so it started really when I was a fire dancer, and I was thinking to myself, how can I sort of, fit this in my my understanding of my own integrity? Because I, bought reusable water bottles to carry with me everywhere so I didn't use plastic. I would have fork, knife, spoon set that I carry with me in my holster all the time so I wouldn't use, to-go utensils. I did all these things, ate organic, did all these things to, in my lifestyle to try and align myself with more ecological practices. But then here I was like a fire dancer, and I was pouring more fossil fuels on this, prop and wielding it around. And I thought to myself, am I doing this for my own glory? What is this really about? And I had to go deep because I really love the practice. And that's kind of what I came to ultimately is I feel like I was born to do it. And people who watch me, they're like, it looks like you were born to do that. And I'm like, it feels like it, So I was like, how do I reconcile this feeling of rightness or alignment with this other piece? And so I kind of thought to myself, more and more, all right, how can I use this opportunity? Because people want to watch it. And actually I didn't honestly start out to be a performer. I just kind of started doing it because I loved it, and then people started watching, and they're like, hey, come over here and do that. I'm like, oh, people are watching, okay, this is great. And so then I decided, okay, I have their attention for a moment. I can use this as an opportunity to convey the deeper and more profound truths that I've discovered in my life that have really helped me be a happy human being and come into alignment with, the environment. And, if ultimately the positive effect that I create out of that, helps people align themselves with those practices, then the net effect will be positive. So I was doing that for a while, and it was a couple of years I was a fire dancer, and I thought to myself one day, God, I'd love to spin fire, the roar, the flame, and the light and the shadow. Like, what would it be like if I danced with electricity? It's another primal energy, thrilling, a little bit dangerous. Like, what would that be like? And 2 weeks later, I'm standing in line, and the guy standing next to me starts talking to the woman over the counter about his lightning project. And I'm just like, okay, that's too weird. So I turned around, I'm like, excuse me, I don't mean to eavesdrop on the conversation, but I can't help myself. What are you talking about? And tell my story. And he's like, that is really weird that you would think those thoughts and run into me, because I build some of the largest Tesla coils in the world, and I have designed a high voltage protective suit in which you can effectively dance with electricity. So it's kind of one of those meant to be synchronicity things, and I really followed it. I said to him, hey, can I get your number? And there's a lot more to it beyond that. And the last thing that I'll say on this is that ultimately he did ask me, like, Michael, do you know why you're the fire dancer that I let you do that? Like, I know other fire dancers, and do you know why you're the person that I chose to do this with me? I'm like, no, please tell me. And he's like, because you're the only fire dancer who ever made me think. You said this piece when you did this one show, and it touched me. And ever since then, I have treated people differently. And even to this day, years later, like, sometimes people will say things, and I'll think about reacting a certain way, and I'll be like, and he'll think about what you said, and he changed the way he operated. So that's, for me, the victory of my life.
I think most people run from electricity, and you run towards it, which is like, I kind of, since I first met you at our dear friend Andrew's a year or two ago, I thought to myself, this person is very in tune with their self, with your body, with how you move, with your sense of presence, and it shows up in your performances, it shows up in your spoken word. And I always appreciated that about you. And the fact that you had an inkling to, hold electricity is amazing. And as I'm thinking about it now, electricity is one of those things that gives me faith that we can create solutions to solve some of the big problems, climate change being one of them, but to solve some of the big problems, because I don't understand it doesn't mean it's not so. I plug something in and I can't tell you that I can completely understand exactly how that electricity got there and how it works, right? I mean, I know a bit about it, but I don't really understand it yet. It's so, and it's that way with faith, it's that way with source. It's that way with entrepreneurs like yourself that are like, yeah, I'm going to harness a Tesla coil, or lightning or whatever have you. And I just think that it's a really interesting venue to get people's attention, And one thing I know about you is that you have a message. You always have a message, whether you're doing a fire dance or serving a magic elixir that you created for health, or doing something, it comes along with a story and a message. And so, I think we were discussing it on the ride up here, and I think you're in the right place for who you are, and it's just so critical, it's just so needed right now. We talk about it, and people listening on the podcast might go, well, how does that apply to me? What does that mean? And so, can you tell us about the Sky Fire Academy?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I believe Sky Fire Arts and Sky Fire Academy have to contribute to, like, the space of transforming culture in a way where we're addressing climate change, is that, fact that we don't really have a technology problem. We don't really have a culture problem, in the sense that we have cultural systems and we have technologies that could allow us to be, as a global culture and a society, in alignment with nature, like we have ecological technologies, what we have is a motivation issue. People are not motivated to use those technologies or to change their lifestyle in certain ways. And to some degree, it's out of inertia. It's not necessarily their fault or whatever. We all kind of inherited a culture that provides us with all this beauty and ease and comfort and convenience. But then like we become aware at some point, like, oh wait, like many of these things that I'm doing are destroying the planet's ability to sustain life. How do I address that? Like, all my friends are all doing the same thing, all my family is doing the same. This is like my business or the business I work for is doing this thing. Like, how do I change all of that all at once, you know? And so we have, you know, the motivation issue of like, okay, if we want to motivate people, we got to understand where motivations come from. And so ultimately that it's people's values that motivate them most powerfully. Now you can say that food, clothing, and shelter, biological needs obviously motivate people, but they will forego, you know, food, clothing, and shelter for extended periods of time in order to serve the values that they believe are important to help people that they love that might be in need, or even people that they don't know that are in need. You know, in emergency situations, people have proven that. So really, if the most powerful motivator is values, then we have to understand, well, where do values come from? They come from stories. They come from the stories we believe. If you believe that a diamond is really the way to show a person that you really love them for the rest of your life, you're gonna work a long time to get this diamond and finally like be able to say to this person, hey, I wanna marry you. But if you believe that a handwritten note expresses just as purely and sincerely, you know, that love, then you're gonna write that note, and hopefully the person that you're in love with shares those values with you, right? But it's like, it's the story. If you've been told a story about diamonds and you believe it, then you're gonna act in a certain way. Versus, you know, if you believe some other story. So Skyfire Arts is really about telling the story of what are the values that people have that live in harmony with nature and technology. What do those people of this, you know, in our story, it's, you know, the guardians of Threa, and they are of this parallel dimension, and they have, you know, similar problems in some cases to what we have here. And if you mix up the letters of the word Earth, you can get Threa, so it's an anagram. And so the bottom line is that we're telling a story to help encourage people to see this, you know, harmony and this enlightenment as being heroic, and that everybody has the opportunity to be a hero in their own life. Now, Skyfire Academy is about a little bit of a deeper layer than that, because you can only really convey so much within the context of a show. People go, they see it, they might get inspired, but then they leave, they go home, and are they necessarily going to anchor these, you know, inspirations as practices in their lives? Skyfire Academy is about recognizing that, in general, people don't care about their neighbors, never mind something so abstract as the planet, if they themselves don't feel in harmony with their lives, or they don't feel like they're really enjoying their existence. And so if we can get people through practicing meditation, visualization, breath work, you know, and a lot of other things that, you know, we teach, if we can get people to feel like, okay, actually, I'm really enjoying my life. Like, I really appreciate my existence. Like, of course I would want to, you know, help other people and sustain the planet because I feel abundant. I feel like my cup overfloweth, and so I naturally want to share rather than out of a sense of obligation. Because I think climate change is just a very scary issue. A lot of people are like not wanting to address it because it's so huge and so many things are out of their control about it. But if we can get people to like understand, okay, everything is the environment. Your neighbor, you know, your family, it's all the environment. And if you can make sure to sort of nourish and nurture what you have the power to care for, then it kind of starts to ripple outwards.
And I think in a simplistic way, what you're saying is that no matter what the issue is, whether it's climate change or whatever, it all starts within, and it all starts with, you know, how can I be the best version of me that represents, you know, who I am in the world, and how can I do things a little bit better? How can I do things that are, you know, regenerative or are adding to rather than always subtracting from? I think when you speak about doing meditation and doing breath work and doing, you know, the physical stuff that you do, and then teaching that, it's about moving within, you know. For myself, my understanding of source is nature. And for me, nature is often represented best in the ocean. Thus, we're here on paddleboards in Laguna Beach, out in the ocean, because I feel really connected when I'm out here, you know. And I so appreciate what you do, because you have a career that people would love to hire you just to be in awe of what you do, but that's not enough. You want to have a message along with it. You don't want to let them just watch. You want them to learn. You want them to open up a little bit. And I think that that's a beautiful thing. And I think, you know, the more that we find ways to do that, you know, ourselves and step into our own greatness, the better opportunity we have to deal with some of the bigger issues. Yeah, so I really appreciate what you're up to.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so tell me, how do people find you, contract you? What gigs are you looking for? You know, I mean, do you want to be in Vegas? Do you want to be in New York, or do you want to be at a house party? What do you want to do? Like, how does it work?
Well, there's a couple different, you know, branches of development that we have going. You know, ultimately what I, you know, love to do is to host our own events and to produce environments in which people really, you know, have the entire thing oriented around the educational piece as well as the entertainment piece. That people can come and they can have a really good time, because that's part of what, you know, this is
It's
about.
all about having a good time.
Yeah, exactly. Because if we can make it fun to do, you know, these kinds of things, then people are going to engage in it. If people, you know, view it as, you know, super challenging and their lives are challenging, it's adding something on top that's not something that they can, you know, bring in. So we want to make it super fun, and we want to orient everything around, you know, our central theme. However, we don't want to just preach to the converted, or, you know, host to people who already know that they're interested in something like that, because that's part of the theme. You know, we're interested in doing things at theme parks, you know, where we can reach a vast number of people and create an installation where the storytelling is still implicitly, you know, about, you know, environmental consciousness or ecological awareness, or at least about courage and compassion, and, as you say, the things that we can host within that then we can share with others and make the world a better place. We also do large-scale events, you know, anything that we can set up, do our thing for, you know, a number of days, weeks, months, or years. You know, that's kind of ultimately how we want to work with other partners, but we also want to create our own events. Online platforms that we have, you know, we have Skyfire Arts, you know, on Instagram, and, you know, our website and whatnot. Obviously,
we'll share all those.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll share all the links to get a hold of you. And I love what you're up to, because I love uniqueness, you know, and like, there's no other Michael Ravenwood. There's no other Skyfire Arts. You know, people might have the word sky or fire, but you've got this. This is it's pretty incredible, you know. And if I had to say, if someone was inspired by your conversation today and there was one or two things they could do today, what would that be?
Well, it depends on where they're at in their life. That's a really good question. But I definitely encourage people at the very beginning to look at their own, you know, patterns in their lifestyle and find, you know, a couple of really highly leveraged ways to make a difference. So if you yourself are feeling really challenged in your life, whether it's, you know, economically or, you know, psychologically or whatnot, have the humility to reach out and ask for help in some way, shape, or form. You know, if you are feeling abundant, then find a way to reach out and give, because I think that this is one of the things that also I, you know, share as a central message, that what people really want in many cases isn't the thing that they think that they want. What they think they want is maybe something, but what we really want is the feeling we're going to have inside when we imagine that we get that thing. And really, all the neurotransmitters, all the, you know, chemicals in our brain that mediate our pleasurable feelings, they're all already in there. And so if we can achieve a level of self-mastery where we know how to conduct the flow of those chemicals, then we can feel abundant within and then pursue our goals from a sense of inspiration rather than from a sense of, you know, lack or things. Yeah. And so, you know, for example, a very wealthy person might have everything they want materially at the drop of a hat, but then not be happy because they don't understand that actually a lot of our happiness comes from helping others and being involved with how others are, you know, growing and learning and changing. And just, you know, for example, you know, endorphins and dopamine are, you know, the kind of neurotransmitters where we can get a lot of pleasure just from doing things ourselves. But serotonin and oxytocin, different chemicals, we get really from connecting with others. And serotonin, in some cases, like just seeing someone else succeed and thrive and flourish, you get a really, you know, a beautiful feeling within from that. So, part of it is just discovering where you're at, what you need, and taking care of yourself in the way that you can feel abundant enough to give out of a sense of, flourishing rather than out of a sense of obligation. That's a really important thing. But then also, if you can just, for example, one of my favorite organizations, we threw a climate change fundraiser last October for Project Drawdown. The reason why I love them so much is because Paul Hawken really identified what are the most highly leveraged things that we can do to address climate change. Because it's such a huge problem, we've got such a sort of short window to address it in a very impactful and meaningful way. How can we make the biggest difference? So I would look up Project Drawdown and the work of Paul Hawken and find just one thing. Whether it's, like I said, getting a reusable water bottle, or whether it's, putting solar 100%. On your house, whether it's, whatever it is, that you have the resources and the time to do one thing and then just pick one more thing. I'm suggesting a two-pronged solution. One, find the one thing you need to do to take care of yourself, whether that's introducing meditation or breath work or something, and then one thing you can do for the greater world.
Love that. Thank you. Thank you. Amazing. So stoked. We're going to get back out here again sometime, because there's so much more I feel like I can talk to you about. And then also, I think this would be a good time to cut into one of Michael's lightnings. And then kind of lightning shows, I should say, and then come back. And one of the things about doing a podcast in nature is that the environment is always changing. And as we've been paddling, we've drifted probably more than a third of a mile, and we're coming into the kelp, but we're also coming into the shore, as you can see. So we're getting pretty close. So we are going to call this a wrap. I am super stoked to had the opportunity to be out here with Michael. Please check out Skyfire Arts. I'm going to share all of his info, and let's do a show, man. Bring it into your company, and bring awareness, and bring fun, and bring the goodness that is Skyfire Arts. Thank you, everybody, and I will see you next week.
Thanks for joining me on this episode of Going Deeper with David Steele. I hope you found inspiration and insight to fuel your passion for a better world. Remember, change starts with us, and together we can be the driving force for a brighter, more sustainable future. So until next week, keep your hearts open, your minds curious, and your actions aligned with the planet's well-being. Stay committed, stay conscious, and let's meet right back here next time for another deep dive into making a difference.